All right, so we are back with rhombi. Rhombi is the plural of a rhombus. And let's talk about the 8 properties of a rhombus. All right, well, the first 5 should be familiar because those are the same exact properties of a parallelogram. And there's only 3 additional ones making our final 3 properties of a rhombus. So the first one is all 4 sides are congruent. So take a look at these tick marks. This side, this side, this side, and this side. All 4 sides are congruent. That's nice. That has to happen in a rhombus. What else needs to happen in a rhombus? Well, the diagonals form right angles. That opens up a huge can of worms because then we have some right triangles when we form right angles in there. And then the last property we can take a look at is going to say the diagonals bisect each angle. So this diagonal in here bisects that angle, and so does this one. And then this diagonal in here bisects that angle in there. So let's take it a step further. Let's analyze and check out what we see when we put in all these tick marks within the rhombus in here. So we're going to scroll down and take a look at this rhombus here, and we're going to ask ourselves, how many triangles do we see? And hopefully you're getting 8 triangles altogether. Most people see these 4 little ones right there, and then there's 4 additional overlapping triangles. We got these 2 yellow ones over here, and then we have 2 green ones here and here. So altogether, there are 8 triangles to analyze. So hopefully you can see all those, and everything we know about triangles comes true in all the theorems we talked about with triangles in the previous chapters. So let's ask ourselves, how many right triangles do we see? Well, these angles out here are not necessarily right, okay? But we do know for sure in a rhombus that the diagonals are perpendicular. So this triangle, this triangle, this triangle, and this triangle, all those happen to be right triangles. And let's keep on looking at those 4 right triangles for a moment and ask ourselves, hey, look, do we see any congruent triangles? Well, let's put some tick marks in we know about right triangles. Excuse me, this rhombus. So we know all 4 sides are congruent. That's nice. And then we do know that the diagonals bisect each other from being a parallelogram. And so therefore, these 2 segments would be congruent as well. So hopefully you will notice that all 4 of these right triangles, not only are they right triangles, but they are congruent right triangles. And what would be a good reason why each of these 4 triangles are congruent? Well, there's several reasons. One, the easiest one is just side, side, side. Notice all of them are side, side, side. And that makes all 4 of those triangles congruent. And if all the triangles are congruent, then we know all the corresponding parts to all their remaining parts, all the other corresponding parts are going to be congruent too, meaning that this one is congruent to that one, and it's congruent to this one, and it's congruent to that one. And we also know that this one is congruent to that one, and it's congruent to that one, and it's congruent to that one. And so hopefully you can see that all 4 of those triangles are not only right triangles, but they are also congruent triangles as well. And I posed another question in here. Do we see any isosceles triangles? Well, the 4 triangles that I just had you focus on, these 4 blue ones in here, they are definitely not isosceles. In fact, they happen to be scalene triangles by the tick marks we have drawn, but there are isosceles triangles within this picture here. Let's draw another rhombus in here and try to see other triangles and whether or not they're isosceles. So I'm going to erase all this in here, and I'm going to draw another rhombus. So right now, I'm going to put some diagonals in for this rhombus in here. And let's try focusing on this blue triangle now and this green triangle right there. So, what do we know about these two triangles? Well, we know that all four sides in a rhombus are congruent. And hopefully right away now you can see that the blue triangle is isosceles and the green triangle is isosceles. We can ask ourselves, are these congruent isosceles triangles? And the answer is yes. Maybe it's a little easier to see if I delete this one diagonal in here and ask yourself, if I make this 120 degrees, for example, what would this angle be? Well, this one has to be 120 degrees. Why? Because these are considered opposite angles, and we know from parallelograms, opposite angles are congruent. So let's keep on using this 120, for example. If that's 120, then what are these missing little question mark angles in there? Well, using the isosceles triangle theorem, if those two sides are congruent, then those two bottom base angles would be congruent. So if I already have 180 degrees in a triangle, and I knew I already had 120, that leaves a leftover of 60. Therefore, this one is 30, and that one is 30 right there. And the same is true for the green triangle. Notice if that's 120 and it's isosceles, this one has to be 30 and that one has to be 30. So we are definitely seeing isosceles triangles in this picture, and these triangles turn out to be congruent. Why? Well, you can say side, side, side. You could say side, angle, side. You could see angle, angle, side. There's all sorts of options in here to discover that these two triangles, the blue one and the green one, they are isosceles. They're not right. They're definitely isosceles, and they are congruent. In fact, this is considered an obtuse isosceles triangle because of that angle right there being 120. All right, so we're going to focus on the other two triangles that we haven't talked about yet. And which two would they be? Let me just draw another rhombus in here and draw some diagonals in. Oops. I'm going to draw this diagonal in right here. And the triangles I'm going to focus on is this yellow triangle right here and this beige triangle right there. So, are they right triangles? Are they isosceles triangles? Let's check it out. Well, we definitely know all four sides in a rhombus are congruent. And what else do we know? Well, it's a little easier to see if I erase this diagonal in here. But what do we know? We know that this angle, no matter what it is, let's call it 80 degrees. If that's 80 degrees, this one has to be 80 degrees because those are opposite angles in a parallelogram. So I now know these are isosceles triangles as well, and they're congruent triangles. Notice side angle side, side angle side. And so if I kept on going in here, I can find these other little angles in here. If that's 80, that means there's 100 angles, 100 degrees left over. That implies that this has to be 50 and that has to be 50. And then this angle in here has to be 50 and that angle has to be 50 as well. This is also confirming one of the other properties of rhombus, which states what? These two, this diagonal is bisecting this angle. It's bisecting this angle. It's also bisecting that angle and it's bisecting that angle. So a moment ago, we talked about the little triangles in the middle. They were right triangles, and they're all congruent. And it turns out these other triangles in here, the overlapping ones, they are congruent as well, and they're isosceles. So, I think that's what I wanted to say about all the properties of a rhombus for now, and we're going to be diving into some other problems in a little bit. Check out the next one.